Hey everyone, Joan here. Hope you guys are having a great day. Today I want to talk about some of the books that have changed my life. I used to love reading books when I was a kid, then I kind of started hating reading books, and then when I moved to LA, I don't know, like in 2014, that was when I rekindled my love for reading books. It took some time for me to find books that really interested me, especially because I started my whole self-development journey, and there's also certain people that have introduced certain books to me that really made an impact on my life and the way I think and my mindset and the way I view the world. So the first books I want to talk about are Eckhart Tolle books. They are The Power of Now and also A New Earth. Now these books really pushed me into a totally different direction as far as how I see myself and how I see everybody else. And I actually started reading this book first, but I had a hard time with it. I kind of struggled with what the heck he was talking about. And then somebody told me, I should check out his other book first. So it's A New Earth. And he tells a lot of stories, like examples of his life and examples of like his clients and things like that. And what really stuck out to me about this book was just how to understand the ego. Now, everybody always had this idea of what the ego is, but he goes really into depth of how it actually influences our life. And when I started reading this book, it just like blew my mind. It was like, oh my God, like I didn't know this is how my mind works. I didn't know that I had an ego. Like everybody has an ego, and I had no idea until I read this book. Some of the things that stuck out to me is this chapter called The Core of the Ego, and he talks about how the ego implies unawareness. Awareness and ego cannot coexist. Oh, and also this part, he says, complaining is one of the ego's favorite strategies for strengthening itself. This book helped me see people beyond their egos. And when I talk to them, it makes it a lot easier for me to understand like where they're coming from. And it's all coming from their ego. So once I finished reading this book, I decided to revisit this book. So this book, they talk about the same things, but it's more of a question answer type of dialogue that goes on, but he goes really into depth about what it means to be present and what it really means to be yourself. Everyone's always talking about being in the moment, putting your phone down and just being in the moment, but this book goes into depth of what it means to be present, like using your senses and really looking within to be present in the moment. And I started meditating too at the time I started reading these books. I think that really helped me get into a better understanding of what it means to be present, and also helped me understand how to really meditate. And so I think reading this book goes hand in hand with your meditation practice as well. So I highly recommend doing both, like reading this book and then meditating, so that you can really get a grasp of what it means to be present. And he talks about how important it is to be aware of your emotions and not let your emotions control you, because we spend majority of our lives unaware that it's our emotions that's influencing the way we make decisions and how we move on with our life. I mean, there's just one part he says, allowing the emotion to be there without being controlled by it. You no longer are the emotion, you are the watcher. So he really emphasizes being the watcher, being the observer, the awareness of your emotions and your ego and your thoughts. So this book is really good. If I were to recommend which one to read first, I would recommend this one first and then going into this one. I mean, they talk about the same things. It's just like the dialogue is a little bit different. And I thought this book was a lot easier to understand. So the next set of books I want to talk about are these books written by Dr. Joe Dispenza. It's called Becoming Supernatural, and then also Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. I actually picked up this book first, even though I've heard of the other one before. And this book goes really into depth about the science behind our brains and our emotions, and how thoughts are the language of the brain and then emotions are the language of the body. He tells a lot of stories about his students that have overcome illnesses and just blockages in their life just by the power of their thought. And he really explains it in a scientific way. You see that there's graphs here. He measures how your emotions changes the way your body and your frequency and your energy works depending on what kind of thoughts you have. So it's a really fascinating book. I'm almost done with it. I think I only have a couple of chapters left, but I got so excited that when I saw this book at the store, I decided to get it. And so now I'm starting to read this now while I'm finishing this one. So this book is pretty similar to the other one, but this one is more on like an applicable basis where he goes into details about how to really break the habit of being yourself. And the thing about being yourself is that we think that, oh, we're being ourselves and that's a good thing. But maybe being yourself is not a good thing. Maybe the self that you think that you are is actually what's holding you back from being your full potential. So, the title itself is How to Lose Your Mind and Create a New One. And he talks about how we've just programmed our brains all our lives, but we can reprogram ourselves. We totally can do that by just being aware of our thoughts, being aware of how our thoughts plus our feelings programs the way we behave. He talks about how to use our thoughts and our feelings to get what we want in our life. So that's kind of where I am right now. He talks about how you have to align your thoughts, the intention in your thoughts, with also the feeling that you have. So you can't really think of something and expect to have it in your life unless your feelings match those thoughts. So your thoughts and your feelings have to align with each other if you're trying to draw something into your life. Anyway, I just started reading this book. I'm super excited about it, so I'll tell you how it goes. So now the next book I want to talk about is something, I talked about this in my other video. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. A friend of mine gave me this book when I moved to LA like in 2014, and I was struggling to meet new people and make new friends, and he gave me this book. I started reading it and I kind of didn't get it because the language is very old, and I was still at that point, like the beginning of my self-development. So there was still part of me that was very stubborn to learn something new. So I started reading it. I probably got into a few chapters into it, but did not finish it. However, like a few years ago when I started going into business and like my entrepreneur path and like realizing that, hey, I have to deal with people, I decided to pick up this book again. And it's really useful, like so applicable in everything that we do. I mean, I honestly don't care anymore if people like me or not, but yeah, I walk into a lot of situations with business and work. I definitely need to know how to talk to people and get people to like me. So this is what this book is all about. It's about how to deal with people, how to get them to like you, how to get them to be interested in you. And the funny thing is, it's like, you want to impress people and you want to get them interested in you, but the key is to show interest in them, show that you like them, show like all the things that you want out of people, you got to show it to them. In this book, he gives a lot of examples of how people just turn things around just by making it about them instead of themselves. So this is a really cool book. I talked about this book in another video and gave examples about how you can get people to like you and give a first good impression. I mean, so even if you just flip through it, he ends each segment with a principle like give honest and sincere appreciation, or be sympathetic with the other person's ideas and desires, or asking questions instead of giving direct orders. Using encouragement, make the fault seem easy to correct. So, at the end of the day, you don't want to make anybody feel bad. You don't want to hurt their ego. So this book, really useful, highly recommended. And then the last book I want to talk about is called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's actually a really easy book to read. You could probably read it within like a week because he uses very like easy language. But this book really changed my mindset about money. I grew up with a really negative idea about money. Like I hated money and I didn't like people that had money. And at the same time, I always struggled with money. And this book really challenged my beliefs about money and what it means to have an asset versus a liability. So yeah, this book kind of pissed me off because he basically said that buying a car, paying it monthly is a liability. You're basically wasting money that way. And that kind of pissed me off because, like I was maybe like 4 years into paying off my car and I haven't paid it off yet. And I was coming up with all these reasons why he's wrong about that. I need a car, so how am I going to pay for it, and blah, blah, blah. And he also changed the way I looked at real estate, like buying a home. Everybody dreams of buying a home, but when it comes to like building wealth, buying a home is a liability. It's not an asset, especially if you live in it. You have to take care of it. You have to keep up with the maintenance. And it's like, a lot of people work their asses off in other jobs just to pay for the place they live, but he has a different idea about real estate. He has a different idea about buying homes. So if you have time to read this book, check it out. I mean, it takes you a week to read it, but it really challenges your mindset about money. It really changes your perspective on what it means to earn, make a living, build wealth, create assets, all of that in this book. I also have some of his other books that I'm starting to read. I mean, he has a ton of books, so you can just check them out. So this is a really good one to get started if you're trying to move into that abundance mindset and learning about how to build wealth. So check it out. So I'll link these books in the description below. I would love to hear in the comments if you guys have read any of these books, if it's made an impression on you, how it's impacted you. And if you have any books you'd love to recommend to me, let me know, because I'm always looking for something new to read. New things, new ideas, new concepts. I mean, you can see I have a growing library of books, and maybe I don't read it right away, but I'll read it at some point. So anyway, I hope you guys are having a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.